All right, all right, all right. Welcome, you loyal listeners, to another episode of Agents Influence Podcast. And I give you a real agents inside real agencies giving you the real agency intelligence and not the artificial that they try to make you believe out there. Now, this is a mixture of agency intelligence because we got a bunch of agents on, but it's also a mixture of agents influence because we're not going to talk about so much stuff about being in the agency. Maybe we do. But the point of this podcast is to really make a huge introduction. So if you're listening, if you're the first 400 that listen to it every Tuesday when my podcast comes out, first of all, thank you. But to you first 400 on January 4th, that's when you're hearing this. We are introducing a new show that we are adding to Agency Intelligence Podcast Network, our 10th show. I'm very, very proud to say that. And I'm even more excited with who we're bringing on, which is Digital Insurance Pint. Now, I can talk about some of these other people that are on, but I want to just kind of pivot real quick to Jeff Roy. Because all of us Americans, maybe you guys, some of you guys know Steve and Adam and Tom, but all of us in America, we usually have had a fine brewski or a cold, refreshing beverage with Mr. Jeff Roy from the north side of the border. And what I'm excited to is, Jeff, I want you to kind of talk about what your show is, and we'll talk about all the other things like that. But a lot of people in America, I don't think they even realize, Jeff, that you and your dudes like have this great show out there. Can you take it over and kind of explain to the loyal listeners what Digital
I'll kind of give it a little backstory. The four of us were sitting around during
there
COVID.
We go.
And, we're having a few chats, and usually it was over a beer about how great things are. And I'm not sure if it was Tom, I'm not sure if it was Adam, but somebody piped up and said, you know what, why don't we turn this into a podcast? We're sitting around, we can't leave, we can't go out, we're stuck inside, we're limited where we can go in the world. So why don't we just record what we're doing? And the whole idea was, all the great ideas come after the conference is over, when you're having a pint in the bar. I think you and I have had maybe one, two, or several over the years at all the different U.S. functions I've been down attending. And, that's when all the brainstorms happen. So we wanted to keep it real cash and, came up with the term. It was originally called Digital Insurance Beer, but we didn't think it was quite sophisticated enough. So we kicked it up a notch to pint, a little more sophisticated, a little more fun. And again, we made sure we had a couple pints, and we just chatted about, season one of issues that affected all of us were going through. And, I'm going to pass it over to the lads to kind of pipe in on the other parts of the show, how it's evolved. Steve, Adam, Tom?
I want to go. I got to...
Yeah, do an introduction, Jeff. Introduce everybody.
I'll get everybody
real
just
quick,
go around the circle just when you pipe in and introduce yourself. Adam Mitchell from Mitchell Wales. You want to give a little background to the loyal listeners?
Yeah, I mean, before I get there and lose my train of thought, I'm caught off guard with Jason because, Jeff clearly told us a number of times how famous he was, but I think we all just felt he was full of shit. I didn't know that people actually knew him and he actually went somewhere. That's something. But yeah, long-time friend and broker of these guys, and we're based in Ontario. What do we have? We have about 90 teammates on our team and have been growing away. Jeff said it pretty well. Hunkered down in the basement during the depths of COVID really sucked, and this was a fun way to tell our spouses we were working while we went to the basement kid-free for a drink and a recording.
Awesome. We'll pass over to Steve Earle.
Great idea, Adam.
He's our East Coast. We got Canada all covered here. He's from Eastern Canada. Steve, he owns Bald Insurance and Cheap Insurance. One brokerage wasn't enough. Steve, jump in here, buddy.
Yeah. As Jeff said, I run a couple different brands. One's a traditional shop. It's been around for about 75 or 80 years. And then I launched an all-digital play about 5 years ago. And we came up with the brand Cheap Insurance, CHEEP, just based on some marketing studies and what are people looking for when it comes to insurance? Well, 86% of them said I want cheap insurance, so that's what we called it. We've got about 45 people in our shop, or both of them combined, and I mean, the development of the podcast really was I think we kind of missed each other as much as we jive each other. You know, we always seem to end up at the same events, the same company functions and whatnot. And I think that we each got a lot of value towards our businesses from having those chats outside of the conference and just getting together for a beer and what do you do with this? I'm challenged with that, and sharing. So, yeah, and we got together during COVID, obviously, because we're from all over the country, informally, just to have a pint and keep those discussions going. And then the idea came out, we should be recording this. Other people would love to listen to this stuff.
Yeah, it was almost part therapy, part education, part social, right? Kind of checked off all the boxes. So.
And mostly bitch fest about the industry.
And also, before Tom jumps in, like, just to call him out, he's a really needy individual, and frankly, Pete Tessier and Curtis Wyatt were getting way too much attention. That had to end.
There had to be two. There's only one political party in Canada that wouldn't survive, so it had to be two podcasts. Tom, take it away, buddy. And Tom's our voice of reason. Tom is our voice of reason. He tries to reel us in, which is super difficult, as you can tell.
Finally, I get to get a word in edgewise, which is exactly like the normal podcast. You know, unlike these guys, I've spent my life working for the man. I've worked for a couple of the biggest insurance companies in the country, and Intact and Aviva. Always on the pointy end of the spear of the carriers. I always work with brokers, whether that was on the tech side, the business development side, whatever. Had my fingers into broker digitization for a long time, actually. Was working on some of this stuff back in the early 2000s, back before it was called broker digitization. Back then it was just called, hey, how do we make things go better, less expensive, and better customer experience, right? There wasn't any trendy terms for it. The term agile development was still hadn't even been invented yet. But so I've been around this business for quite some time. I've known these guys for a while. Been involved. They've been involved with me. I've been involved with them in a lot of these. Sorry.
Squirrel.
Getting
digital squirrel.
Wouldn't be a podcast without a technical issue.
My 74th spam call of the day on my phone.
Now who has ADD?
So,
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, my headset connects to both. So.
Did you get a text that you won $1,000 too?
No. Yeah, well, that's probably what
just
they
give your
want to
social
say.
insurance number to collect. It's really simple.
So, anyway, I've been involved with these guys for quite some time. They were on various advisory committees that I created when I was at Aviva, and always had tremendous respect for these guys because they're living this theory of broker digitization. They're putting their own time, energy, and money into it. There's 3,000 brokerages in Canada, or agencies, as you guys will call them in the U.S., and probably 100 to 150 of those are really investing in the next generation of what a broker can be in Canada. And these three guys are leading lights amongst that 150. So, what they're saying and doing is actually leading the industry. So, almost 2 years ago now, I thought, man, we talk about this, like the guys have said, like we talk about this a lot. It's, in the old days, it was over a beer, in Vegas late at night. But now it's over video conference, and we thought, hey man, let's record this, get it out there because it's fun. And to be honest, I had just left the previous organization. I didn't have a lot to do. COVID had hit, and I thought, well, shit, I got to keep myself busy, otherwise I'm going to go nuts. So part of it was also just having a bit of fun, and that's what it boils down to, right? Jeff said it's about the after hours, about the real conversation, and that's true. And it's also about having fun, and it's also about showing some thought leadership to the industry. So that's kind of where we go. If it fits those three criteria, we'll record it. If it doesn't, we won't.
Which actually has a very good YouTube presence as well. I mean, so it's way more than a podcast. You guys really, really hit hard on that. One of the things, Tom, I love what you said is broker digitalization. I would say that's a term I've never heard, but yet that makes a total sense in what it is when you're really thinking about that. I just love it. Just north side of the border, just slight different terms. And you loyal listeners are probably in the Northeast or other places, you've heard that, but I've never heard that specifically said, and you said that a few times. There's no doubt in my mind that Jeff Roy is leading that from what we know. So I can only imagine Adam and Steve as well. So that makes for a great conversation when you have smart people. And I love what Steve said. It's how I started my podcast, was getting on there and actually busting out all the haters and the people who weren't treating the independent agent right. Helps get a lot of listeners. Really, truly does. You know what I mean? And it's the truth, because everybody's scared to say it. But you can say whatever you want in this situation. So yeah, so I mean, what have you guys? I mean, what have you guys learned from each other? I mean, what are some different things? I know some of the people. Whenever I'm talking to Jeff, he'll be talking about Steve, and he'll say, "Oh yeah, well his kind of personality is like this," or the same thing with Adam. I mean, have you guys really become closer friends because of this? I mean, any favorite times?
Well, I would say yes. So go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead,
absolutely,
Steve.
To the friend piece for sure. But I think the thing that we learned the most throughout this is that the challenges that we have are all in common. And what we hear in the industry from our suppliers is that often they'll tell us that's our individual challenge. Steve, you're the only one I hear that has a problem with that. I'm, trying to be a squeaky wheel to get some grease, but in fact, we share, and everybody's got the same problem. So they can't really divide and conquer when we all get together and we say, you know what, I've got that problem, Adam's got that problem, Jeff's got that problem, and guess what? Here we are, and we're talking about it in a forum that everybody can listen, and they can shake their heads. Yeah, I got that problem too. So let's call them out on it, and let's try and get it fixed.
That's right, Steve. That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. No, that is so great. And also other agents don't think that, they don't realize that there's people like you, Steve, that are out there thinking like that. They think they're alone. And then when they hear it, it's like a breath of fresh air, Well, so that is, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Adam, your thoughts, dude?
the giggle going through my head is friendship with these guys is kind of like catching a rash. You don't always get a say in it. They just decide that they're your friends, and good luck trying to ignore a Jeff Roy phone call. Like, that doesn't work well. But my actual serious learning out of this is how much power there is in just a little bit of organization. And I think we north of the border have fell victim to a lot of divide and conquer. That's a lot easier to fight the broker force in a one-by-one basis. And it's, to Steve's point, it's amazing how common the problems are. And I think what comes from me is you don't realize how far these little messages go. And so we spend a couple hours recording and, a few $1,000s polishing and things. And that organization, we owe a lot to Tom for, but it's amazing the ripple effects it has. And just as you were signing on here, Steve was updating on one of our last ones on a facility issue, which is sort of our insurer of last resorts. I'm not even sure you guys have the same label down there, but it's looks like it's changing. And we did an impromptu, hey, this is bullshit. And we're really catching the short end of the shaft here. And it sure looks like people took our message in a little organization and sort of relayed the message onto their reps and said, yeah, enough's enough. This is BS. And it looks like the mothership might be changing direction a little bit.
Wow, dude. Yeah. That's power. That's power. I hope my other hosts on here listen to understand their power that
I
think
as well.
Said, Jeff,
Tom mentioned we're kind of tip of the spear, so we're trying a bunch of stuff, and we all know not everything's going to work, but we share our war stories. There's always things that other people are doing, and as Adam said, you may not pick it up, but through osmosis, it kind of becomes part of you. If you ask him his new favorite line, what does winning look like? I maybe told them about 10 times, but now, hey, what does winning look like? How do we paint a picture? And the other thing is too, you become the 6 people you hang out with the most, so choose wisely. So we're hanging out with, I'm hanging out with some great thought leaders and people that want to change the industry and put a dent in the insurance universe. Guess what? I'm going to be more apt to stumble across the right answer, meet the right person, have the right conversation if I'm out meeting people, running into people. And again, during COVID, I couldn't get out. I've been boxed up in Clinton, and it's brutal. And I've missed out on Brain Share and a bunch of really cool events that I'd get a lot of great ideas. So the good thing is we've had great people on the podcast that we've had good conversations with, but more importantly, exposed our questions and thoughts to everybody else to share with them. So it's a really cool thing. All of us here have given hundreds, if not thousands, of hours to make the industry better. We just don't work on. It's not all about us. It's about making the industry better. And one of the things I've always said, I always want to champion people. It's not just about Excalibur. It's about us winning together and playing for the industry in the front of the jersey, not the name in the back. So I think by us coming together, shedding some light on stuff that's not getting some love or getting tainted. I'm not saying anybody ever taints the truth, but let's be honest. You look at CNN versus Fox News in the U.S., and what's the truth down there, right? And likewise, if somebody else is telling the truth for agents, but it isn't agents or brokers, how accurate is that? So we've also become one of the sources of reality. I'm not saying it's truthful, but we got a version of reality between the four of us that we've all discussed, and I think it's a good cross section because each of us brings unique skills and viewpoints to the podcast.
So we believe here at the Agency Intelligence that there's two things that got you to where you are right now, Steve. And I'll ask all of you this question. There's two things we believe is skill or luck. What would you say has been the biggest factor in your life to get you where you are today, and why?
You're asking me skill or luck?
I'll answer for Steve.
Yeah, skill or luck.
I will. This is how I'll answer this. You have to develop a skill to identify increasing your luck. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense.
You have to develop a talent for putting yourself in positions where you can be a bit more lucky.
Yeah, you have to be good to be lucky. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So
Tom, what do you think?
I've definitely had some luck throughout my career. And I mean, the early part of my career, I was able to accelerate pretty quickly. I was a small cog in a big machine called, at the time, ING. And ING, still has this habit, but back then had a habit of buying somebody, another insurance company every couple of years. And then there was lots and lots of change. And people who were willing to move or try something new got opportunities. And I was young and hungry and wanted to do whatever I needed to do to get ahead. So there was skill because you had to be able to do the thing that they wanted. But then there was luck that, I'd ended up in a situation where other people were doing things that presented opportunities for me. So, it's a bit of both in my case.
I'm going to
I like it, Adam.
reject your reality and substitute my own. I'm going 60% luck and 40% stubbornness. I'm not sure intelligence or skill came into my equation.
Makes sense. Yeah. No, that makes sense. You know what's crazy is those are all different answers than what I get in America, and I get the same damn answers every time. It happens to be that preparation, God, now I can't even think about it. Preparation leads to opportunity or something like that. Kind of what's along the lines of what Steve said, is that I got to be able to put myself in situations to where then that actually occurs. Steve was right on the bat. I mean, if you want to sit around and do nothing,
it's a famous golf.
Proper planning prevents.
But it was all worded,
right? That's what you're trying to say.
If you're playing
there
roulette, right? Entirely luck. And you put a bunch of chips on a whole bunch of different things and you win. Were you lucky or because you spread out your ideas and you tried a bunch of different things? If you put all your chips on one.
Roulette is luck, Steve. I hate to break it to you. Roulette is only luck.
So it's okay. All right.
I don't like that, Steve.
You know what I'm saying,
Steve,
right?
I know where you're going. I like that.
I've always learned that in order to have one good idea, you actually have to have 10 because 9 of them are going to turn.
I'll go 2 more analogies. There's a golf quote. Famous golfer says, it's a funny coincidence that the more I practice, the luckier I get. Right? And this could go some of Steve's spread of risk and more games in play and pieces of it's funny how this coincidence correlates. The second one is a bit of a whitewater rafting river angle idea of there's a huge amount of agents, brokers, others that are just going with the flow. And there will always be flow. It will always keep moving, and you can keep navigating, and maybe market goes up or goes down. But you can also apply steerage to that, and you can steer your way and navigate and maneuver. So both will happen whether you're choosing to or not.
My thoughts are I kind of sort of agree with all the points, but I think it's, number one, hard work. If you work hard, things happen to you. If you sit around, I always give the analogy, if you sit around in your yoga pants and the end of the dock hoping great things will come into you like The Secret, you're going to be sitting a hell of a long time. But if you're out in the world meeting people, having conversations, trying stuff, launching things, people are drawn into you. So it creates some of the luck by actually doing the hard work. It's going to attract the right situations into you. That's a huge, stepping stone. That's what I believe. So hard work, the harder you work, the more luck you get, right? So.
Wow. This is going to be a great podcast for all you loyal listeners, because I mean, totally different angles and different takes and different sayings and all kinds of stuff. This is really exciting. When I listened to, I got to be honest with you, I've listened to 1.5 of your guys's of your podcast, and it wasn't because I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I really don't listen to a ton of books, but I didn't get so much the different angle out of this, and it's really hard to explain. But totally
hey, do we need a
different
translator?
angles
I wasn't sure if you got our Canadian
answers.
accent. If you
So,
need somebody to translate it, or do you want to speak devils in the VOD?
yeah,
boat?
no, your boat. No, your boats, and you guys are out. That's all the normal stuff. I love it. I love it absolutely, very much. So, with your guys' new season, now I want to let you guys, loyal listeners, they will be rolling out on January 8th, which, if you're listening here, is very, very soon, if you're listening on the 4th. Today, loyal listeners, we're recording this on December 7th at 12:30 in the afternoon. And when they roll out, they'll be on Saturday mornings, and they go by seasons. So we'll have season 1, 2, 3, and you're recording 4 right now, or you're recording 3? Recording 4, okay, yeah. And so then they'll roll those out, and then we'll eventually catch them, and then just roll out at the same time. And you can still find them on all of their own domain. They still have all their stuff where all of their followers go and follow them. We're just adding them onto the network like we have some of the other shows, just to give you access to the best out there.
One quick thing, just quickly, I just want to give a shout out.
There was.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to.
We got about 5
lucky
minutes.
we
I
have
just
some
want to just kind of
Canada,
connect the dots.
A couple great sponsors. Tom, I don't know if you want to just say a big quick thanks to our sponsors. Like the money that we do it,
Yeah.
we do this for
Please
the love of
do.
the game and to help people. So any money we make at the end of each season, we donate to cancer, and we have women in insurance for cancer. So anything that we, the podcasting isn't cheap, as you know, but the money goes in there. And Tom, do you want to do a quick shout out to our 3 sponsors? Tom always does this.
Thanks.
Hit him, Tom.
Thanks for teeing that up there, Jeff. Yeah, so just to elaborate on Jeff's point, like when we got together, almost a couple of years ago now, it was very much about this is for fun, right? And then we realized that, hey, people are actually listening to us, and this is of value to people. And I've had CEOs of insurance companies call me up and say they've listened to every episode and they learned stuff, and I was absolutely blown away. And so there are.
That's awesome.
Much to my surprise, personally, there are people listening to us, ironically. So anyway, so that snowballed into some attention, which snowballed into, hey, we can actually raise a bit of money. And, because these guys are all rich independent brokers, they don't need any money. So we decided we'd give it all away. So which with much thanks to IFS Premium Finance, they're our title sponsor. We also have the Crew Group as a sponsor. And of course, no podcast would be... no Digital Pint Podcast would be complete without our beer sponsor, Garrison's Brewery. And the money that we do collect from these guys at the end of each season goes to, as Jeff mentioned, to the Women in Insurance Cancer Crusader, WIC, which is one of the top charities in the Canadian insurance.
I want to point out one more thing, Jason.
So not only it's educational, and it's for a great cause.
I want to point out one more thing out too, Jason, is we're getting requested by companies to present to markets. We just did a special podcast for the entire executive team in Canada of travelers that wanted to actually understand what the heck brokers want in a relationship. Are we partners? Are we stakeholders, right? We unpacked what a relationship should look like in 2021 and 2022. And unfortunately, it's not what the relationship's relationships are right now with our carriers. So that was good. And, we're looking at doing a couple things next year where carriers invite us to come out to speak to their executive teams. We're going to do a select number of gigs, but we'll come out and give them, the full take of how we see things. And Jason, I've lived on both sides of the border. I've been hanging out with you guys. I know both the issues. We have the same battles. So it's not just across Canada. The issues across Canada and the U.S. are almost identical, just with different names attached, right? We're all fighting the same fight.
You're right. That's right. No, truthfully. And that's where I was going with that. I wanted to lay it out to loyal listeners on the date they'll be coming out. But I wanted to make a big point on that you guys are doing this and you're doing it for those reasons, but then giving any money out to charity. So, and so if also keep in mind, any of our vendors, anybody that listens out there, if you have an arm in Canada and you have a lot of money, they're always willing to listen because they have money that they need to be sending out to fight cancer. You got to fight that worldwide, everywhere we're at. Any last things you want to say, Steve, Adam, Tom, Jeff? I mean, anything else?
Not really, Jason. Thanks for today,
No?
and thanks for this. I think it's cool what you're doing, and happy to be on the same screen with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be number 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
You always want to be a perfect. You always want to be a perfect 10.
We're number 10.
So there you go. So nice to round it off. And
That is
again, it's
a
nice
good point.
to get some exposure to the U.S. There's some great agents doing some amazing things. I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of them in my travels. So there's some great agents that hopefully we can help a few ideas with, and vice versa. We're gonna be watching a few more of your podcasts, checking out some of your great podcasts. I watched 3 or 4 of the people, like Hanley right now and yourself, and there's 7 or 8 other excellent podcasts. So I think it's really good to get both the ideas cross-pollinating into both markets. So awesome job, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve, very much. And this won't be the last time we talk. And loyal listeners, for all you out there, remember, I don't know when you're listening to this. If you're listening to it right at the beginning, January 8th, it's going to be on Saturday morning. So if you miss one, that's okay. We're going to play one, skip a week, play another one, skip a week as we go through to get caught up to where they are right now. Probably we estimate around you guys ending season 5 or starting 6 is when we'll probably get caught up to you guys. And I'm excited about it. If you like them so much and you can't get enough of them and you want to skip ahead, you can always find them at Digital Insurance Pint on, Spotify, Apple, wherever you want to check that out if you want to jump ahead. But as long as we can make the connection and the bridge over the border, that's what we're all about. So remember, thank you very much for joining me here at Agents Influence Podcast, Conversations with Jason Cass. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Cass, Steve, Tom, Adam, Jeff. We are out.